people are not born great. They actually just found their talents earlier in life and had a longer cycle of practice than other people. And Mozart was playing music at 2. Tiger Woods was on a golf course at 7 months old. Taylor Swift, she had a guitar in her hand at 4 and 5 years old. Venus and Serena Williams were playing tennis as kids. Basically, they chose a destiny. They spent a long cycle of time in that destiny. And that's really what made them great, not because they were more gifted or talented than other people.
Coach Burt, welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. Obviously, a big admirer of your work and enjoying getting to know you better.
You are too kind. I met you here about a month ago here in Scottsdale, Arizona. It was awesome hanging out with you, getting to know who you are. Like I said, I've been following you for probably a year and a half, so I've seen a lot of your stuff on there. Well done. So I want to dive a little bit more into your background first. Maybe you come from coaching basketball, so I want to know. A lot of times our background kind of relates to what we're doing in life now in some way. So what happened? Where'd you come from?
Well, I spent 13 years as a high school women's basketball coach, really 3 years as an assistant, and then 9 years, 9 years really building a championship program. It took me about 10 years to build a national championship program. That program would go on to win 7 of 9 state championships in the state of Tennessee. And I really became a specialist at what I call building competitive intelligence inside of people, inner engineering, body, mind, heart, and spirit. And now I wasn't using the term prey drive back in those days, but it was really activating a drive deep inside of a person to want to pursue something bigger. And so that was my special skill set, taking people, all walks of life, all socioeconomic backgrounds, inner engineering them to play at a very high level. Just happened to be in the context of sports in those days. But that's really where I got started, is building championship teams.
So I want to talk about this because winning 7 of 9 state champions, like winning 7 state championships in 9 years. I mean, that's like a Bill Belichick or like a Nick Saban type of coach. So obviously there's some skill set behind that. So how did you, because I think this is important for everybody to understand, if they're team building, if they're a sales leader wanting to get into sales leadership or management or own the business or anything, is how did you get this team to like come together and play a team? Because I think like Tom Brady says it best, he's like, individual performers who only really like pay attention to their own performance, like they're never really going to be on winning teams like Tom Brady was. So how did you get them all to buy into this vision?
Well, from 18 to 25, I was a deep disciple of Dr. Stephen Covey. Covey taught the whole person theory, 7 habits of highly effective people. What that instilled in me was a deep methodology of building people. So I was teaching players in those days. This was 1999 to 08. Those days I was teaching the 7 habits of highly effective people to every player. I was teaching the 5 dysfunctions of teams. I was teaching principle-centered leadership. This was kind of unheard of in those days, to be teaching 14 to 18-year-olds. And what happened is the more I built the individuals, the more they won, the more they produced. They built intangibles, just like you would see intangibles in sales, chemistry, buy-in, trust, leadership, and a lot of things you teach, tonality. It's like I was building these things into the players in a very systematic way. And that's really why I started writing books, is because people are always asking me, how do you get the players to play that hard? Why do you have so much trust in chemistry? And I said, man, I don't have time to explain it, so why don't I start writing books about it?
I love that. Like I said, I come from a sports background in high school and college, so winning 7 of 9 state, it's like nobody does that. So well done. There's definitely something going on there besides just a bunch of talent on your team, right? You got to get them to play together and buy into like the one vision. Okay, let's talk about Prey Drive. It's your methodology. Okay, I love the name behind it. What does it mean?
Prey drive is prevalent in animals. An animal has a prey drive, which is the animal's ability to stalk, capture, and kill prey. When I heard those 2 words, I immediately had a big revelation, and I thought humans have a prey drive. And that is their ability to see something with the eyes, optically, or in the mind, in the imagination, and to have the persistence and the intensity to pursue it. So I've trademarked those 2 words, prey drive. I said, I'm going to become the leading authority in the world in activating that drive inside of people. I codified it, and I really came out with a motivational theory which I wrote about in the book, Flip the Switch, on how to activate that drive inside of people. And I say nothing happens until the prey drive is activated. And so, right, until we teach skill, we can't really teach skill until that drive is activated.
They
Once
have
that
to
drive
they
is
have to want
activated,
it, right? There has to be a
that's right.
commitment. So how do you activate a prey drive? It's like some people, you know, it's like they have a chip on their shoulder, maybe like a Tom Brady where he doesn't get drafted, so he's like pissed, so he's going to show everybody that, you know, they're wrong, and that's like his chip on it. Like, what activates a prey drive?
Well, I write about in the book that I think there are 5 activators, right? And there's more than this, but these are the 5 that I focused on. Fear is an activator of prey drive, specifically fear of losing. You know, psychologists even talk about mental subtraction, which is where you tell the brain, I've got to give something up if I don't hit my numbers. I got to give up my nice car if I don't hit my sales numbers, or like, it's like I mentally subtract something. Competition is a natural activator of prey drive, trophy to win, game to play, championship to win. Exposure is an activator of prey drive, right? Like, think about being around big time people doing big time things. And there was a big takeaway when I had dinner with you that night. There was one big takeaway that I took away. There's a lot of things you said that were great, but there's one thing that stuck with me, and that's exposure.
Yeah.
So exposure is I see something and it expands me. Environment is an activator of prey drive, which is why I'm building, you know, greatness factories. And embarrassment is an activator of prey drive, meaning it's like, man, I'm personally embarrassed. I should be playing at a higher level. Why am I playing down here when I should be up here? So these are 5 things I focused on as primary activators of the prey drive. Most people have 1 or 2 that are their primary, but could be activated by all 5.
Is it something that just, you know, like, let's say Tom Brady, so he gets, you know, maybe his prey drive is I mean, I'm not going to speak for him, but maybe part of his prey drive is activated when he was drafted last in the draft. Like, how does that, is every person just different? Is it based on their circumstances? Maybe they grew up as a child, or what would cause maybe somebody to have the fear of losing and exposure, that's their prey drive, compared to somebody being embarrassed in competition?
Well, you take a guy like, let me use an example like Will Guidara, who wrote Unreasonable Hospitality. When he got into the hospitality business, he, you know, his restaurant was named one of the top 50 restaurants in America. So he goes to this big award show and they're naming out all 50, and him and his partner, they win number 50.
Oh, yeah.
So he's sitting in the back of this thing, and it's like, out of the 50 restaurants that are here, you're number 50, right? And
you're last.
Instead of being excited,
Yeah.
that actually activated his prey drives. Like, man, I don't want to be number 50. I want to be number 1. And so, you know, when you think about it, Brady may have been slighted. Like, the prey drive could be activated because you're slighted by something. It could be a chip on your shoulder because you were bullied as a kid. It could be because nobody paid attention to you. It could just be, man, you want to win. There's a competitiveness in you. So actually, with me, fear can be an activator sometimes. Competition can be a big activator. And actually, embarrassment is one of my big activators. Like, man, I should be playing at a higher level.
No,
we should 100%. Be bigger.
If you're like, if you're great at something and then nobody really knows it, you're like embarrassed that nobody knows it, right? So you need more exposure. It all comes around. You know, I find the best salespeople in the world are extremely competitive, and they're almost embarrassed not to be great. Does that make sense? So it's not like they're just born with, you know, the right tonality skills, the right objection prevention skills, or the right questions to ask, but that competition and embarrassment drives them to learn those skills, like soak them up like a sponge, because they just want to acquire advanced skills all the time because they know it puts them ahead of everybody else. But it's like they're competitive. If you're not competitive, why would you even want to learn how to sell more if you just don't really care? You know what I mean? So there has to be that competitive nature there, I think, at least some.
Well, it's like, you know, when I was watching your talk one day about, you know, how salespeople are not born, like they're not born with all of these things that you teach, right? And the truth is, you know, we look at people that are super talented and we think, well, they're just more gifted than us. The truth is, most likely somewhere in their life, they were exposed to something, a better way of doing things. They were enlightened to something. And that's why I called the book Flip the Switch, right? It's like it flips something inside of you. It's like, man, I'm tired of being an amateur. I'm ready to go pro. And what do pros do? They train, they get better, they get in a room, they get around great talent. And so I think when you're thinking about it, it's like, they asked me what happens when the prey drive is activated. And I said, man, it's like a switch is flipped in your life where you really start pursuing a bigger future. That's really ultimately what happens when the prey drive is activated.
Yeah, you do. You like I said, like I always say, you do what others are not willing to do. You spend the extra time learning the craft. You put more time into, let's say if you've got a keynote or whatever it is, like you're just gonna outdo everybody else. I love that. Let's talk about the Greatness Factory. So you've got, rumor has it, you've got this big building in downtown Nashville, Tennessee, and you've built something called the Greatness Factory. I love that name. Tell us about it.
When moms and dads drop their kids off to me at 14 years old, they would say my daughter has a lot of potential, which is an idea of kinetic energy that is stored until activated. And they would say, but she needs this. She needs confidence. She needs this. She needs accountability, discipline, structure. And I would say, thank you for bringing your daughter to the Greatness Factory, because we're going to manufacture her greatness. And so when I retired from athletic coaching, and around 2014, I started to have a vision. Man, where do adults go when they want to become great? Like, right? Like you live out in the Scottsdale area. It's like when a person makes up their mind, like I'm ready to go. Where do I go? I have to go to a conference. I typically spend 2 or 3 days. Then I have to go back home. And I thought, what if I could build a place that when a person says, man, I'm ready, they could go. Now, this is morphed into a commercial real estate play. There's co-working, there's private offices, there's a 109-person state-of-the-art theater, there's podcast studios, and every member gets access to my coaching. So I'm really combining coaching and co-working and private offices and theater, and it's all like a city. It's a little city. It's in downtown Nashville, and we do have plans of building these around the country. So we're in talks about how do we scale it around the country.
So, okay, so they come in, maybe you're there, maybe they do something with you, but is it just to be around other people that want to become great as well? Is that part of the
part of it?
Okay, that makes sense.
So think about the programming that I create. One of my skill sets is really packaging concepts that solve problems. So basically, I create programs. We have a monthly go to bed tired, wake up hungry sales meeting. We have monthly meetings. Like this week, I'm doing Build an Empire with Adam Coffey that bought 58 companies for $3.1 billion. I do the Micheal Burt School of Speaking there. So people come together. There's a natural organic exchange for them. So there's members. They're really members. They pay a membership fee depending on what level of membership they have. They may get a private suite with that membership. They may get usage of the theater, that membership. They may get to use the podcast studio. And basically, it's like a community of people that go to one place to be great.
Yeah, you are who you associate yourself with. We have all heard that, but you're taking it to like another level. I love that. Okay, so, this question I had on my mind, I was going to actually ask you this at dinner when we met. But going from being a high school basketball coach to then starting your own thing, that is a big jump for most people. You have to have a completely different mindset, okay? Why did you do that? How did your how did you flip the switch to go to the next level?
I was studying business the whole time I was a basketball coach, which was not normal for most coaches. Like I was I was getting coached by some of the best people in the world. I had a real entrepreneurial desire. I was really going over to the business world and studying business and then bringing it back to athletics. And so around 30 years old, I started feeling like kind of a level 10 person stuck in a level 4 vehicle. No matter how much I won, they couldn't pay me any more money. I was already on book number 4 at that time. I was already speaking. Companies were already offering me 6 figures to come in and train their people. And I'm like, man, I need a bigger play. I'm looking for a level 10 opportunity here. And so at 31, I retired. I had already written 4 books. And really the first 4 years of this business, I went into companies as a kind of a hired gun to drive revenue, to coach their leaders. And it was, I was signing 6-figure contracts, which was crazy because I went from being a basketball coach making.
Yeah, you're making 6 figures once, 2 years. I know teachers don't get paid jack, and my mom's a teacher. It's crazy. I mean, it's at that level, you're going to do what you did, or you've got to get into like coaching at the D1 level or pro level. There's really, where else are you going to go? You're not going to stay there. That's well done.
Hey, it's Coach again. If you're serious about accelerating your path to the big table, I've got an opportunity for you. You can schedule a free call with a member of my team to talk about your goals, what's holding you back, and how we can help unlock the next level of growth for you. But let me be clear, this call isn't for just anyone. It's for business leaders and entrepreneurs who've already experienced success, but know there's another level to be unlocked. There's a bigger table, and you want a seat at that table. If this is you, head to freecall.coachburt.com and book your free call today. Again, that's freecall.coachburt.com, and I'll see you at the big table.
So how do you become a person of interest?
Well, for years, when I retired from basketball, I became fascinated with, okay, how do the top 1% of performers perform? And if you study, there's really probably 5 habits of the top 1% of performers.
Yeah.
That would include remarkable boldness, deep intrinsic motivation, great connection skills, resilience, grit and resilience, and the ability to lock in and see something through to its conclusion. Those are 5 habits of the top 1% of performers.
Okay, can you give this to us again? I'm writing those down. So lock into a sense of conclusion. What was the first one? Remarkable.
So we got remarkable boldness.
Okay, yeah.
Deep intrinsic motivation.
Okay.
3, great connection skills. They treat everybody like family.
Yeah.
4, grit and resilience.
I like that, yeah.
5, ability to lock in and see something through to its conclusion, a lead, a target, a goal, a dream. So I started really kind of studying what are the habits of the top performers in the world. And by the way, this doesn't mean top money earners, because you know, if you could be a top 1% teacher, you could be a top 1% firefighter, you could be a top 1%, right? That you'll never make a lot of money. Yeah. So I really was fascinated by this. So I started going, okay, people of interest have certain ingredients, and we could actually acquire those ingredients if we wanted to. And the more known we become, the more opportunity we get. Yeah. So I wrote a small book. It's actually one of the smallest books out of the 20 that I've written, but it actually generated the most interest. And it's literally a book that's generated millions of dollars for me in speaking, coaching, training, leading. And actually, I'm still doing virtuals on it today, years later, because it's just such a popular concept. It's like people have a desire to become a person of interest. Yeah. So that's really what it is. Most people of interest have a very strong skill. Like with you, it's clear to me you've put the work in, you've had a long obedience in the same direction, you have a demonstrated capacity. You've built a very hard skill set that solves a real problem for people. What that does is it drives up your person of interest score. But if you don't understand marketing, if you don't understand the branding, then you may be the best kept secret in the world.
Yeah, nobody's going to know you are. And I think it comes down to like how disciplined you are. Like I think one of the biggest attributes I've ever seen anybody that's been like ultra successful is they're just very disciplined. Yeah. They might go to bed late or early or whatever. Like those things, I don't see 100% like, oh, they wake up early so they're successful, or they wake up late so they're not successful. But they're just disciplined in their daily habits, right? So every day they're like doing the boring things, like reading for 30 minutes or, listening to an audio while they drive to work and back, or they're doing something and they're extremely disciplined, and it's almost like it's scheduled every day where they just, no matter what, they're going to follow through. I like the locking into that lock-in sense to the end of the conclusion. Like you're locked in the entire way. I think that's crazy. How do you become remarkably bold, though? I think a lot of people struggle with that.
They really do. But if you study the top 1%, the people we admire, people that do big things in the world, they all are remarkably bold. And so there's a difference between confidence, which is the memory of success, and internal knowing you can create or manifest something, and remarkable boldness, which is a striking fearlessness. So think of an Elon Musk, take all of the money from PayPal that he made, put it all into Tesla. I mean, all of it.
That's bold.
That's remarkably bold. Buy Twitter for $53 billion. That's remarkably bold. So remarkable boldness is really striking fearlessness. And it's like they know, they have such a confidence. They've actually moved to a much higher level that they know how to win. No matter what happens to them, they have 100% belief that they can recreate it. They can do it again. And they really have this boldness about them. And that's what is very attractive to us about those people.
That's so true. Grit and resilience. Where does somebody get that? Where does it? I don't know if are people born that way, or is it something that maybe they just something happened to them in their childhood that made them that way? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to conditioning, just to be honest with you. I mean, I was raised by a single mom. She was in survival mode a lot. She conditioned me to be tough. She conditioned me to show up every day. You know, it's like we didn't whine in our house. We don't complain. So I think a lot of it is environmental conditioning. And that's tough because in today's world, my kids, for example, have a much easier life. And so we actually instilling that in them is like, how do we make sure they're tough, because we don't want the world just to devour them. So I think grit and resilience happens a lot to do with structure, a lot to do with adversity, a lot to do with teaching how to handle adversity, things that are not typically taught, but as you know, taught through sports a lot. Because you win, you lose, you have a coach yelling at you, you learn how to be tougher in the world. But a lot of people, I would be honest with you, a lot of adults do not have this one, which is why we see so many people start and quit. When it gets tough, they want to quit just because they haven't been conditioned. Now, one thing I would say about that, Jeremy, is that great people typically have developed a concept of themselves early in life, and that concept cannot be broken by other people. So somewhere along the way, a concept was developed. I'm going to be great. I'm going to be one of the best in the world. And that concept, they made up their mind. My confidence is not predicated by what you think.
No matter what you say or what you do, like I'm just full freight, just train ahead. Like I'm running over you to get there. I love that. That's so true. Okay, so a couple other questions that I had on my mind here when we met in Scottsdale. So what are and there's probably more to this, but maybe break down, what are the 3 biggest obstacles that hold most people back from accomplishing what they want? And that just whatever they want in life. If they want to be in a great relationship, if they want to have a great business, if they want to be great at sales, what are those 3 things in your mind, the biggest things that hold people back from accomplishing those things?
Well, I think if we just went back to those 5 habits and we started looking at what they really struggle with, I mean, it really is a lack of belief that they can accomplish it. Like top people look at something and go, if he could do it, I could do it. Other people don't look at it that way. And so they really kind of lack the long obedience. Now, there was a book written many years ago by Jeff Colvin, and it was called Talent is Overrated.
Okay.
And the reason I love that book is because he makes this argument in the book that people are not born great. They actually just found their talents earlier in life and had a longer cycle of practice than other people. And Mozart was playing music at 2. Tiger Woods was on a golf course at 7 months old, right? You look at even like a Taylor Swift, she had a guitar in her hand at 4 and 5 years old. Venus and Serena Williams were playing tennis as kids. So it's like basically they chose a destiny. They spent a long cycle of time in that destiny. And that's really what made them great, not because they were more gifted or talented than other people.
They chose a path, and they just, no matter what, they just stuck to it, right? Like, I was watching that movie with Venus and Serena, and I haven't finished the whole thing, but I noticed, when they first started getting coached by the legendary coach, whatever his name was, it was only it was Venus getting coached, and Serena had to she couldn't get coached. I think she was a year or 2 younger, but she didn't make it, and she could have been pouting and crying and giving up, but it just drove her for even more success,
Yeah. Well, and I think your response to that, I mean, even if you look at a Taylor Swift, even when she didn't win a whatever Grammy in that one year, I mean, my daughter, watches all of her stuff, and I'm watching that documentary, and instead of her whining, she just said, I need to write a better album.
Yeah.
She said, I need to get better. She didn't get mad. She actually converted not winning, the embarrassment of not winning, to prey drive, which is what big time people do. They learn to say, thank you, I owe you.
Yeah, I love that. So instead of blaming somebody else or outside circumstances, you're just like, hey, what did I do wrong? I need to get better myself. I love that. Tell us about, I've watched you, I've watched some stuff online, public speaking, all that stuff. It's kind of off the subject, but how did you get into from coaching into public speaking? Where did you learn how to speak so well?
It's crazy. When I was 15 years old, I actually had a speaking coach, and we had one guy that mentored people. He was a dentist that was wealthy in our small town. Every year he would pick one kid to mentor, and he would mentor that kid in how to write, how to speak. And for some reason, Jeremy, he chose me, and I was shocked that he chose me.
Yeah.
And I remember them coming to school one day and said, Dr. Deason wants to work. He wants to meet with you and work with you.
Wow.
And I'm like, what? And so every night after basketball practice, I would actually go to his house and he would teach me cadence, rhythm, eye contact, how to write. I would go into like run for national office in a beta club, which how I got in that, I don't know. But, and then one of my assignments was to go around the world speaking. So I was actually doing speaking engagements to as many as 6,000 people at 15, 16 years old. And so it's like I did it and then I kind of shelved it and said, I'm going to be a basketball coach.
Yeah.
But it was always in me. And then when I started writing books, people would say, come speak to my group.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, I was out speaking. And the next thing you know, people were saying, well, we want you to coach our people. And when they started offering me the amounts of money they were offering me to coach their people, it was a whole new world for me. I'm like, what? This is crazy. Like, you're going to pay me this much to coach your people?
You do a couple of those a year, you just made four times your annual salary as a coach, man.
So a big light bulb went off at 25 when I wrote the first book, and I would go out and speak, and people started coming up saying, we'd coach you, pay you to coach our people. And I said, well, what does that look like? And one woman said, we're going to pay you $144,000 to coach our people 1 week a month. And it was in the healthcare industry. Yeah. And I just remember going home and telling my mother, she thought it was a scam. She's like, what? Like, they're going to pay you that much money to coach for a week? And I said, yes. And so it kind of piqued my interest. I kind of shelved it. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to be a college basketball coach. I have no desire to do this. Yeah. But the more I did it, the more I enjoyed it. Then I'd write another book. Then I enjoyed it more. And then by 31, I'm like, which way am I going? College basketball, over here to build a coaching business. And that was really, 15, 16 years ago.
Interesting. So 15, 16 years, it takes a while to build a business, as successful as yours. What's your biggest thing? What took you from, coach, I'm new in this field, to like, I'm up here, like I'm at the top? What was that one thing that took you there?
I think 2018, when I spoke at 10X, that was a huge multiplier for me. I was relatively unknown during that period. And what that really did was open me up to an international audience. We signed more clients on in an hour than I had ever had. I was on a stage with the likes of the Milettes and the Russell Brunsons, and really just kind of like opened me up to the world. And it really was that was a big life change for me. So that catapulted the coaching business to another level. And then obviously, Jeremy, what I'm seeing now with this Greatness Factory, if you see the number of influencers who have already come through the Greatness Factory, it's like people that I don't even know are come and call and say, hey, can I come up and see it? Can I do an event there? And it's like, I think it's another signal to the market that I'm serious. Yeah. No, you don't build a $7 million complex if you're not serious. Sure. And, so I think it's just one of those things. It's like, okay, this dude does what he says he's going to do. Yeah. And if he tells you he's going to do it, he does it. And I think that builds trust in the marketplace.
Yeah, no, 100%. So, Coach, where can I know you've got a hard stop here coming up, so where can they find out more details about what you do? And maybe they own a company and they want to bring you in to coach and help with their culture or anything, right? Where can they find out about you?
I would just go to coachburt.com, BURT.com. You can also see the Greatness Factory there on that website. And I'll obviously follow me on social. I've got podcasts under America's Coach, which we'll be having you on my show here pretty soon. Under that, I have a show called Person of Expansion that I interview really people of interest. It's really a fascinating show. And I'd love to meet people and see you out there in the world, man. Just go to coachburt.com and you can see everything, everywhere I'll be in the country, all those things.